Hey guys, how's it going? This is Khan, Mr. So Real, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. So in this video, we are going to be going back into our discussion about The Division, some of its problems, and some suggestions on how to improve the game. Now this format of video has kind of been one of the mainstays on this channel, but lately I've been focusing more on live streaming and trying to interact with you guys on a more consistent level outside of just making videos. So if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to check me out on Twitch, Twitter, Mixer, YouTube, everywhere. Basically I stream to 3 different platforms, so you can pretty much catch me wherever you like on Twitch or YouTube Gaming or on Mixer, and keep up to date with me and what's going on and news about the channel and stuff like that on Twitter. Now speaking of Twitter, today's video I pretty much asked you guys to let me know which topic you'd like to hear me talk about for this Let's Talk, and I gave you guys a poll on Twitter, and the winner was the #1 problem, or the biggest problem with the game. So in today's video we are going to talk about that, and it's probably something you don't hear too many YouTubers talk about, as I like to think a little bit out of the box. So let's get started. Alright, in this Let's Talk, let's get started and talk about what is the #1 problem with the game. Quite frankly, there are a lot of problems with the game, in my opinion, and there are quite a few things that need to be evaluated, changed, and looked at if the game wants to stand a fighting chance of making a successful sequel. Because if they follow down the road that it's going on, I don't think many people will be too happy about The Division 2 if they make a Division 2, if they even make it that far, or trying to get people to give it a second chance, I think is going to be very difficult. Now, I have quite a few issues with the game in terms of its design that I think could be improved. I'm not really going to try to sugarcoat this too much, but let's get started. Not specifically talking about the #1 problem. I will get to that. But one thing that leads into the discussion of the #1 problem that I think needs to be talked about, and I'd really like to hear you guys' suggestion and your opinions on this topic, is that I believe that the game is just too unclear. It's very unclear, and it's unclear from the beginning. There are a lot of times that, you know, when you started the game, I want you guys to think back to when you started the game. You first booted it up, you got the game, you turned it on, you made your character, and you didn't really know what you were supposed to do. You started it off, you shot a couple cans, and then you went from one place to the next. And then as you played the game, you started to get some loot, you got some better guns, and you put all these things together. But the game never really taught you about making a build. They never took the time to stop and tell you, if you put this with this, this will go up and you'll end up being stronger, or if you put this with that, you'll have more stamina. If you have more electronics with this, then you'll get this much more damage with your rolly ball or your turrets or whatever. And they never really asked you to make a choice about any of that stuff. And that, I think, leads into another problem with the game, is that there is a very, very severe lack of guidance in telling you what you need, and hard decisions on the gameplay and how things should be constructed in your build. Now you might be asking, what do I mean by that? And what I really mean by that is that when you look at successful games, and we're going to just look at multiplayer games for right now, because I know a lot of people are quite frustrated with the PvP in The Division. When you look at multiplayer games in general, people know exactly what they are expected to do, and they understand the strengths and weaknesses of, you know, their class. And the Division, although there is some I guess kind of class system in the game, it's not very clear. There are quite a few things that you can mix and match and try to build and squeak out the best of whatever, but at the end of the day, you're given what you have, and you have to make the best of it. That's just how the game is. And for some people, they'll get lucky and they'll have really nice stuff, and then other people, they just won't. And then you're just expected to make a build out of it. You're expected to make a good build so that you can, especially for the PvP sense, be able to handle the builds of other people. Now, again, getting back to the issue is that it's not very clear what your role will be in a lot of situations. And that, I believe, is a problem, because when you look at games like, let's say, another Ubisoft game, let's look at Rainbow Six Siege. Siege has different characters that do different things. They have different skills and attributes, and they have different roles that they play in the game, and everything is very clear. You either defend or you attack. It's pretty simple, pretty clear. People know what they do. They know what to expect, and then they have a good time doing it. Look at another game, Overwatch. Overwatch has a huge community, lots of players. People know what they're supposed to do. They grab their character, they play around, they experiment with different characters. They try to find good team synergy, and they try to make it work. And if things aren't working, they switch characters quite frequently and often, and they just play the game and try to win. Let's look at a different model, something a little bit closer to the Division. Let's look at PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Now, this is a little bit more of a battle royale style, but the basics are you're either on your own and you're trying to kill everybody that you can, no matter from whatever angle, shoot them in the back or whatever, and you just try to stay alive and win. You find gear, you pick it up, and you use it. And you have some teams that they go into teams and then they try to do things, and then they call stuff out, they use cover, and it makes a lot of sense. And you know, for a lot of people, it's a lot of fun. But when we look at the Division, it doesn't do any of those things very well. And I believe that's because they haven't made a lot of hard decisions on what needs to be done with the game to make it clearer for people to understand and a lot more accessible to be successful. So to make my point clear, what I'm saying is the number one problem, in my opinion, with the game is that hard decisions haven't been made to safeguard players to have an overall more enjoyable experience. There are just too many variables and kind of questions that lead players to be confused. They don't really know where to go, what to do. There are like a million vendors where you can buy things, which makes it even more ridiculous. You have so many variables in your gear, you have so many variables in your gear sets, and then you have quite a few different types of classes and weapons that you can have, a lot of which don't really amount to much. There are a lot of weapons that I'm sure most of you guys have never used, or you tried out and said, well, this is ass, I'm not going to use this anymore. And I think that's where the game kind of falls apart. There needs to be more hard decisions on things to kind of balance things out to be better. And I think once they have a lot of those things in play, it's going to make the game overall better. And one thing I'd like to talk about in a future video is about the hard decision on team play versus solo play. I know that a lot of people haven't really talked about this, and I don't really hear too many YouTubers talk about this. And if I'm missing somebody who may have discussed this before, I apologize. But I think that the lack of I guess the lack of deciding whether the game is a not PvP, but if it's a team-based game or a solo game makes a huge difference, especially when you talk about difficulty, when you talk about PvP. And without that hard decision about things like that, you get PvP instances where everybody is running DPS builds because they are used to running alone, and they know that if they run some kind of tank or health build, if a 4-man team runs up on them, they're going to get dropped because they just don't have the DPS to put them down. And when you have a team of people who just run DPS, if one guy goes down, then you have other teams, you know, with more people just shooting at you, and it just seems like a lot of confusion with how the game should be structured. And I'd like to hear you guys' opinion on this. Do you think that having, I guess, clearer options and maybe even having a few less variables in the game would make it an overall better experience? I'd like to hear what you guys think about that. And I'd also like to know if you guys would be interested in hearing a few more thoughts about deciding whether the game should be a team-based game or a solo-based game. And when I say that, I mean that if it was a team-based game, then whenever you go into the dark zone, before you can enter, you have to queue up with a group of people and 4-man it. And you know, if you're with your buddies and you guys 4-man it, then you could go in. Now there would be advantages of having 4 people that you usually play with, because you'd have communication and you could kind of customize your builds and stuff like that. But I think having 3 randos that can shoot is still better than you being by yourself in most cases. Of course, you know, those randos are still going to die if they don't have good builds and if they don't communicate, but they could still help. And let me know what you guys think about that. Do you think that, you know, a hard decision about making the Division a solo player experience with the option to join up with other people, or making it strictly, you know, you have to play this 100% with, you know, 4 people, and that's just the way that it goes, and all of the activities you do should be with 4 people, and you'll always get randoms whether you like it or not? What do you guys think about that? Does that make sense to you, or how do you think that would impact the game? Let me know. I'd like to hear in the comment section what you guys think. So I think for now, I don't want to make this video too long. I have a lot of other ideas going on in my head, but I think that the #1 problem with the game is that it's very unclear in a lot of the things that you can do, should do, and are expected to do. And I think that it needs to make more hard choices on limiting the amount of times that you can fail at things by, you know, limiting some of the things on the gear. Like, some of the stuff should be maxed out the best of what it can be, and it should have, you know, that roll on it. And you don't have to worry about, you know, if I get this chess piece, and all chess pieces come with health, and the health is maxed out, I don't have to worry about that. I can worry about rolls on some of the other things, and then that's just that. I think limiting some of those things and baking in a few other things could clear up quite a few things for the beginner to average player, and make it a little bit more accessible when people make builds. But again, I'm sure that some of the YouTubers who make their living or focus their channel on building probably will disagree with that idea. But I think the overall thing that we need to think about is the experience fun? Is it accessible? Can we keep players playing? And can we limit the grind from being the #1 stay point of the game, and focus on making the game an overall fun experience that people enjoy playing more than grinding? If we can do that, I think people would enjoy the Division a bit more. but I could be wrong. You guys let me know. What do you think in the comment section? And I will be looking and reading every one of them. So let me know. And on that note, I am Khan, Mr. So Real. I'll catch you guys in the next Let's Talk or the next Division video or the next live stream. So check me out online on YouTube, on Twitch, on Mixer. And remember to follow me on Twitter. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm out. Have a great day. Peace.